Hello, my name is Evans Flammond Sr. I'm a ledger artist. I'm an enrolled member of the Rosebud Sioux tribe, and I've been doing ledger art for about 20 years, amongst many other things, how I make a living with the craft, such as weaponry, any kind of ceremonial reproduction. A lot of my work you can see at Prairie Edge in my main representation. You could go down there, go in the fine art department and see all the ledger work up there and all the weaponry, the painted buffalo robes, war bonnets, dog soldier headdresses, just pretty much everything but quill. I never had the patience to quill. In my whole career I've been shooting for letting the people know of what we're all about as Lakota people, meaning the symbolism, where we came from, where we're at, and where we're going with our culture and our lives within art, such as myself is what I do. And today we're going to be talking about ledger art and the different techniques I choose to use. My uncle John Center, when I was first starting out, he told me art inspires art, and it really does. You can go down any avenue with what you do, whether it's music, drawing, painting, sculpting. You're always going to see something in someone else's work that's going to inspire you, but you're going to grab it and you're going to change it a little bit. That's the same thing they do with music. Hear a couple riffs, notes, melodies, and you're going to grab that and you're going to rearrange it in your own fashion, and it's going to become yours. And you do it long enough, you'll invent a style. And that's what my art is all about, especially the ledger art. Of all the things I do, ledger art is the main thing, because I can be able to express myself more than anything as far as the colors I use, the shapes, the morphing of the designs, kind of give it a little bit of a sprinkle of contemporary feeling, but at the same time, I'm not rearing off the path of symbolism. So all the colors I use is another thing that my uncle told me. He said, never be afraid of color. Don't just use black, red, yellow, and white, and which is a real strong traditional 4-direction color and everything. And I do incorporate it in a lot of my work, but still I use every color all the way across the board. My theory is, when people first start saying that's cool how you use every color there is, and I just tell them in my own little theory is that if you go out in springtime, mid-spring, and you walk across the plains or through the hills, just get a grasp of nature, you're going to see every color out there. So that's what our people did a long time ago. They used every color, whether it may be green, red, orange, pink, mauve, teal, blue, yellow, and just put all them colors together and find out what matches what on a particular picture you're trying to draw. And then that's what color is all about. Just never be afraid to use color. There was one point in time where I was stuck in a white, red, yellow, and black phase, but I think every traditional artist does when they first start off. And when they start finding themselves with what they do, then they're going to start making up their own rendition of what have you, whatever you want to create, but still stay on the same path of symbolism and what it meant to our people. The ledger art is a really good way to express that, because ledger art a long time ago in the 1800s, it was what you would call a warrior's art. The warriors, they would get together in a time where they called it in prison art. The reason why they call it in prison art is when we became captive on reservations and in soldier forts, we were no longer able to tell our stories on hides like we used to, like the winter count, the buffalo, bear, elk, deer, when we used to paint on the robes and tell the stories and stuff. So from that point, it's unknown to which individual brought the warrior a ledger book, but they brought the warrior a ledger book and some crayons and some colored pencils upon request, so they could depict their heroic deeds and tell about everything what happened in the past. It's like a long time ago Kodak camera. It's like saying, okay, here's what I did in this particular battle. Here's what I did with this in this hunting venture of mine. Here's what I did when I stole back the horses that were stolen, and the ceremonial scenes, everything, all the way across the board on how we lived was depicted on a ledger, and with really nice colors and stuff. And you got to keep in mind, a long time ago, when you do look up ledger, Google it, and you'll see many different early ledger drawings, and it's really crude, but you got to keep in mind, I tell people, because they compare it to the contemporary, is that a long time ago it wasn't a contest. It was just them expressing their everyday happenings from back then, and how it was like not a contest. It's like, oh, look at mine's better or nothing like that. No, it was just a matter of drawing what you experienced and keeping it alive, like an oral history. And where I'm taking it, and many other ledger artists are too, is they're adding their own style, and some kind of stick to the old style, which I used to do when I first started out. But after a point, I thought, well, you're just reliving the same thing over and over on a piece of paper. Depict what you're living, depict what's going through your head. So ever since I was 7 years old, I started drawing, and all the pictures that you're going to see in my technique are all like a compilation of different colors and ideas it was through the years. So a lot of the colors I use, there's a massive amount of shading and blending in together. They didn't do that a long time ago, but that's what I choose to do right now. It pleases my soul, and it obviously pleases others, since I've been doing this for a spell now, where my art is all over the world. The ledger drawings, when there's different competitions or different art shows, which I attend, it's always real fun to do that, because it'll bring out your best. It'll bring out your best in everything you do, because in the back of your mind, if you talk to any artist who's about ready to go on an art show and they're just gonna waltz in there and think, okay, an art show, whatever, they're lying to you, because in the back, if you take this stuff serious, and no matter what kind of competition you do, especially art, which we're talking about, is that you're gonna give it your best more than you do when you practice, because in the back of your mind, you're gonna be thinking, okay, well, first of all, my personal opinion is I wanna please the crowd and show them my craft, let them see my soul with all the colors it has to offer and all the symbolism of our people. But in the secondary is you will win a ribbon, and a ribbon is a recognition of something that on a competition level, where you're thinking, okay, well, I did good, it got this kind of recognition, they gave me a first place ribbon, second, third, no matter what it is. And then you know you're doing something right. That's how I feel about it. And third comes the money. It's a nice treat when you get money with a ribbon also. So that's a real fun thing to participate in. When it comes to art shows, it brings out your best. So no matter what any of you do, whether it's music, art, acting, sculpting, when it all comes on to it, and it's showtime, you gotta give it your super best. That's how you stick around. That's how you'll leave heirlooms. That's how you'll leave a legacy. That's the way I look at it through time. But I didn't look at it like that when I first started. So that's a pretty interesting thing all along with the art. And my ledger books, a lot of people ask me, where do I get my ledger books? And that's a real interesting question, and I answered that many times before. First of all, when you first start out, a ledger is a ledger no matter where it comes from. And you think, okay, well, you're just happy with that. But when you get real serious into it, it's a certain kind of ledger you're gonna want to have to create these pieces of work. So you can't like get, I mean, I personally don't want, I mean, I ran into, I always use this example, when they say what kind of ledger books would you use and what you don't want to use if you take this craft serious. I ran into a ledger book before, and it was real old in the 1800s. Something about selling saltwater taffy on the dock in New York or something like that. And it was, like, okay, it was old, but the content is saltwater taffy. I mean, like, I just thought after I became established and everything, I thought, wow, you're not going to want to use anything that didn't pertain to our people. So like this particular one, Dallas County, Nebraska, this is a really rare book that I obtained in 2006. It's where they gave the Native Americans Christian names. And although the Native Americans aren't on here with Christian names, it's just for the fact that it's an actual Dallas County ledger. And that's what's really important about it. And it's one of my favorite books that I like, we're working on. And another one is like Justice Dockets, where it kind of represents itself. It kind of like caters to, okay, someone will be interested in something like that, right along with the ledger work, because they might know a lawyer or a judge or something like that. And that's kind of appropriate for that little realm. And you got another book of mine is the Atlantic Railroad. And I choose to use that one because our people had a real problem with the railroad when it first started existing long ago. And I do different depictions of railroad scenes where the warriors are running beside the train or looking at it thinking, what in the world is that? And all that kind of stuff that goes along with that. And different documents like lawyer degrees, certificates, bonds, diplomas. I have clients that commission me to do work on their deeds to their home. Some let me do it on the original, some make a copy of it, and then I put something on there and we collaborate together. So it's a really interesting thing, not only creating this stuff, but you're going to run into different things throughout your career when you do this kind of stuff, where someone's going to want to collaborate with you, and they're going to do the same thing what they did a long time ago, is they're going to tell you a story, what they want on there, and so you're actually depicting a story through the collaboration to put on the ledger that is going to signify their past and become a heirloom all on its own with the person who commissioned it. There was a farmer outside of Martin, and he seen my work and he contacted me, and he had an actual deed in an old ledger book to his homestead back in the late 1800s, and he wanted me to do one on the original of the farmhouse and how it looked back then. So he gave me a collaboration of how it should be, a whole bunch of pictures, and I had to create it just how it was by taking old photos and doing the old outbuildings, and then not doing the trees and doing the whole new trees back then, and of how it looked when it was new. We kind of had to put our minds together on it when it was all completed. It was pretty interesting. It was a pretty fun project, but a lot of things like that, you're gonna go down the pike and help people preserve their history also. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you different styles and different color variations of what I do on my contemporary ledger and where I'm going with it. And I hope you enjoy them. So I'll explain different ones as I go down the line with them. But we'll be right back and we'll take care of that. Okay, we're back. And I'm going to give you some examples of the kind of style and what I do with the ledger myself. And this one, in my vision and imagination, depicts Crazy Horse on his infamous white horse, the great chief of the Lakota. And as if you can see, the horse mask and the raven shield and all the garments on the horse, including the moon, are all the same color. And that's what I do to tie in the whole picture as far as like how it all relates to each other and gives it like a real meaningful representation of color. And you'll see this technique that I invented down here. It's an actual, it looks like smoke and burning embers without color is what was going through my mind when I invented it. So you can see many different little pictures in there. A lot of people see faces, swallows' nests, different animals, but it's just all exaggerated lines, just free flowing from my imagination. And you have the buffalo that represents providing for the people, and all the feathers. I love putting a lot of feathers on the warriors, just of that very aspect of bravery and how he earned them. And you just can't get enough of how brave the warriors were a long time ago, and how they stood for the people, hunted for the people, and did everything from A to Z for the people. And that one, it was a real fun one. And if you're gonna notice throughout all the pictures that I'm about to show you, you're gonna see the eagle. I put an eagle in everything I do because it was the eagle that gave me the gift when I was 7 years old. And I'll get into that a little later on how that worked out. And we'll look at another one here. This one was a centerfold on an Atlantic Railroad. I called this one the Buffalo Runner. There was a certain breed and of what our people used to have a long time ago when they called them the Buffalo Runners. Them were certain horses that they used for buffalo hunts, because you could just, they were trained down to a science, just like how a blue heeler would be on a farm. You could see them blue heelers rounding them cows, get them in the pens, all that fun stuff. Well, that was the same thing with our horses a long time ago, called the Buffalo Runners. They could be running at top-notch speed using the gun or the bow and arrow or the staff by just steering the horse with the movement and the pressure of the warrior's thighs, and the horses knew exactly what to do. And I honored that one, that aspect, with the different buffaloes hidden in the spots or morphing out of the color. Then you see the buffalo skull here, and then you see my eagle again, and you'll see that throughout. So that one's called the Buffalo Runner. Let's get another one. This one is a real fun contemporary piece. You can see where I put different type of filigree, which is a part of nature, so it has everything to, has every right to be in pretty much everything when it comes to the Lakota people as far as the creation and creativity. And you got the star quilt. It's kind of more of a geometrical pronounced drawing. That was a real fun one. See the buffalo tracks down here representing the 4 directions. The eagles again, the moon, and you're gonna see a moon and everything I do too. It's kind of like coming off the different, like if I use a lot of red or a lot of yellow, whatever, I kind of blend that right there. It could have been a blue moon, yellow moon. If it was a dark background, it would have been a white moon, but this time I used the orange. About that, we're back. Had a little technical difficulty on the paper sliding. But anyway, this one's called Sneak Up. It's where the warrior, it's more of a traditional piece. It's where the warrior would hide alongside his horse like that, running at full speed. In this one, it depicts the enemy camp in the background, and the horseshoe looking figures you see there are horse tracks. Them are representing the amount of successful horse raids he was on to get the horses back from the enemy, and that's exactly what he's doing now. And sometimes they have to run right in front of the camp from a distance and make it look like a wild horse running through there. So they'll think, okay, it's just a horse from the herd or something, but little did they know he was hiding on the side of it like that. That was a real fun one to do. And this one's the first one that I know of that I created with the Badlands. I call this one Badlands Pony. You can see on top where it has like an abstract geometrical feel, how it breaks out into the sky like the paper's coming apart, which was the whole idea, the contemporary feel to it. And then you got the Badlands. And then if you look real close, the Badlands are morphing into their spots, and their spots are becoming a piece of the Badlands, or the Badlands are becoming part of the horses. It's all how you want to look at it. That was a real fun one to do. You got the moon and the eagle, moon the same color as the sky. That one was done in 2015. This particular one was the one I was telling you about the Atlantic Railroad. I got approached by the organization who was doing a traveling exhibit, the Carnes traveling exhibit, about the 1880 era. And Craig Howell approached me and said, "You want to do something for the traveling exhibit?" And they're at different categories, and one of them was has to do with the train, so I jumped right on that one. And as you can see here, where I always preach to everybody, where I think details are really a good part of anybody's craft, and you could just reach down in there and see all the different little shadows, the gears, everything that is on that train, just to depict it. And this is where the warriors long ago once would say, running across the prairie, and they'll be thinking, and when I spoke on this particular one, it was like, you gotta imagine what was going through the warriors' minds when they first seen the train. I mean, it was like just so out of the ordinary. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. And so in this one, it's depicting that they're running beside it, counting coup on it, all looking at it in disbelief, thinking, what in the world is that? That's what this one is all about. And I called this one the Iron Snake. That was a real fun one. 2019. This is a contemporary one also, just straight out of the imagination. I was talking to a client of mine, and they came over to my studio, and this gentleman was looking at this horse that I drew, and he said, well, I got a friend that has a horse sanctuary and she really loved that, so he bought the print of the one with the horse on it. So I told him, I said, I'll create one with an Indian woman with her hair blending right in with the horse's hair, and you could show it to her. And when it was all finished, this was in 2014, emailed it to him, and I got an email back the next day saying she wanted it. So this one has a nice home in Switzerland at a horse sanctuary, where a woman takes in old horses that are on their last leg and ready to be put down, and she keeps them alive as long as she can. And this one's called She Loves Her Horses, embracing the power and healing that the horse has to offer. 2014. This particular one is titled The Other Side. It has like a real dark feel to it, but at the same time a positive one in my mind. I was on a art ledger exhibition in Suriname, Brazil. The government funded, and when I went down there to different universities to talk about what I do and share my craft and also share the art with the indigenous tribes and the college students down there, and we swapped stories and showed each other art. And one day, about 2 days before I left, I was on the beach down there just looking out at the beach, and there was a real gloomy, coffee looking, polluted looking sky. I don't know what was going on, but what I seen was just this part right there. It was like a white cloud with dark shapes coming out of it, and one of them was kind of shaped like a horse. So I sketched it when I got back to the hotel room and kind of kept it fresh in my mind, and I thought when I get back to my studio I'm going to create that. So this one is a just like what ledger is all about. I seen that, and in my own eyes I wanted to create something from it, what I seen, depict it like it was pretty somber, but I turned it into something what I would think would be beautiful, my memory of the place. The swallows representing a new beginning, and the horses coming out into the spirit world. A very good friend of mine, Brian Akipa, owns this original. He's a renowned flute player. You'll really love his flute playing. And I did a little special thing for him when I sold him the original. As you can see, I put his name in there, Akipa. So that one would be a heirloom on his side of the family. That was in 2011. This one's called Mirror Image, even though the colors are different, but they're identical in shape. So it kind of goes against what I'm calling it, but at the same time you can understand why I'm calling it that. Geometric lightning bolts. The black war bonnet design. Horse raid depiction. Dragonfly medicine wheel. It's all in there, all the symbolism, everything has a little story. This one was a real fun one too. I love the monarch. So I thought, what am I going to do here? So I told myself I'm going to make a bunch of monarchs and then put a horse with the same design on its neck with the same black war bonnet design as the butterfly's wings. Make it all tie into each other. Like the butterflies gave it that color, but... And then the moon, same color as the butterflies. That was a real fun one to do. That one was done in 2018. This particular one is in New York. This is more of a traditional one, kind of like a crowd pleaser at the art shows with the prints. This one is called Horse Raid because he's stealing back the horses. As you see, they're putting up a little bit of a fight, but he'll eventually get them back. And the triangles of the pyramid looking shapes in the back you see there represent the Black Hills. And the dark green for the prairie. And I put my Rosebud Sioux on every other one. That one is a 2011. That was a fun one. This one's called Spirit in the Sky. See the yellow moon and the horse on the front? Kind of tied that into the one in the back with the moon. And if you look real close, you see an eagle blending into all three horses. And then you see the spot, or the shadow, however you want to look at it, on the first yellow one of the eagle head. And the dots you see there represent hail, the power of hail. And when they're in a triangular form, they represent constellation. That one was done in 2018. I think this one's in Colorado. This is a real fun one. This one was done on a 1898 Atlantic Railroad. It's a what you would call the scalp shirt. And a lot of people think that just because of the hair you see here hanging from the shirt are scalps, but what they meant by that when they called them scalp shirts is that when there was a young wearer ready to be what they would call a shirt wearer, when he's ready to be inducted into a powerful realm such as the warriors, everybody would get together in the camp and they'll donate a lock of their hair and give it to a certain individual when their time comes to place it on the shirt when it's completed. So you can imagine how many different people donated a piece of them to the warrior. That's what that means when they say scalp shirt. And up here you see the symbolic black war bonnet design and the geometric form of the butterfly on the bottom. That one was done in 2019. This one is the Hidatsa Buffalo Dancer. You see the shield. He had the ceremonial shield with the buffalo. Green representing the prairies. The 4 direction on his shoulder. And then his rattle is made up of a deer rib, a buffalo rib, and deer dew claws. That one was done in 2016. And then in the back you'll see his horse and the little moon. Then you got the other yellow moon representing night and evening, night and day. And the number of successful buffalo hunts he participated in. That was a fun one. This one's called Power and Strength. If you look real close, you'll see the buffalo all taking part in all three parts of the horses. Up on top represent the spots. (2019), that one was made. This one was one of my favorites. This one was done on a Dawes Connie. I call this one Buffalo Vision. Earlier we talked about the morphing technique that I do, and this is a perfect example where I'm at in my career with morphing the colors. So here you got the buffalo in its real color, then it's morphing itself into the spirit world, the great blue sky, and it's going through an array of changes as it goes through the geometrical forms. And then on the bottom, all the colors represent everything that's on top. It all ties in together. Different shapes, different shading techniques. That one was done in 2011. The whole thing's a moon. Everything that has to do with it is the moon. This one is called Good Hearts. That was done on an Atlantic Railroad. The story behind this one, it's a historic representation of what they would call a depiction like this, good hearts. And people say, why do they call it good hearts? And what was going on was the buffalo were obviously running from the warriors when they were hunting them, but at the same time they're giving themselves to the warriors to make it easy for our people to survive for thousands of years. And if it wasn't for the buffalo, we wouldn't be here. They gave themselves to us to survive. They had good hearts. They watched over our people. And we utilized every part that came off the buffalo, we utilized to give thanks. There was no waste. So it was a real magical relationship that kept our people healthy and pure. That one was done in 2019. This one's done on a justice docket. It kind of gives you a feel of how you can just get contemporary with it. This type of filigree, these deep teals and greens. This one isn't finished, it's still working on it. There'll be a hummingbird flying in the back of it. And a teal moon. That's just an example of the different shading techniques I use. That'll make a nice tattoo. This particular one was a 2 foot by 4 foot piece, and I'm happy and proud to say that it won first place at the Northern Plains Art Show in 2019. It was huge. It took a little over a month to complete. That was done on Atlantic Railroad, piecing together the ledgers. And if you could see here why it took so long, the amount of detail that went into it. Just like I was saying, I thought when I was creating this piece that I wanted people to really enjoy the detail on it, and that's exactly what they did, and that's exactly what gave it the blue ribbon. You see the buffaloes and the painted horse. You see the shields and all the different kind of material, the same color. And you got all the people on the bottom worshiping, giving thanks. And the picture tells 1,000 words. But my rendition, what was going through my mind when I created this piece, was all these warriors were returning home. That's what I titled it, Returning Home. And all the people were there waiting for him, getting ready to have a big feed, honor him all over again. And then way on the right hand side here, you're gonna see a little pedestal made with some lances that one of the great chiefs that were obviously deceased is there in spirit, and everything he represented. So there was a lot to tell and look at in this particular piece. This particular piece is in the original framed up is in the North Dakota Forebears Tribal Building.